Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at one of the new battleships which is coming into the game in the next major update and also is going to be a premium. This is the HMS Iron Duke. It's in the British Blue Water Tech Tree and it's also a rank 5, a battle rating 6.7. So it will be able to fully research the tech tree at 100% efficiency for the Blue Water British naval setup, and also at the same time will give some crazy rewards since of course it is a naval premium. If you didn't realize, naval premiums have insanely high SL rewards on them. This vehicle right now is actually available for pre-order before the update. You do get some pre-order bonuses, including a flag, and then also some other little goodies too. So make sure to check it out on the store if you are interested. The Iron Duke is part of, guess what, the Iron Duke class, which means it is a unique class when it comes to War Thunder, even though it has some similar statistics. It doesn't share the top BR of the game, but pretty close at 6.7, and the reason for it is because it is a First World War battleship. This vehicle has access to 5 mounts of dual-mounted 13.5-inch guns, 2 on the front, and then also 2 on the back, and a single in the center, meaning that you can broadside the vehicle pretty aggressively at the enemy, which is nice, so you can get all the guns firing at the same time. That is backed up by 12 6-inch single cannons on the sides of the vehicle, and what really kind of annoys me about these, you can see them on both sides, is you have 5 which are in a perfect row here, just enjoying life and loving everything, and then the last one is just sat up in the superstructure away from everything, just kind of by itself. It would have been lovely if it was over here, and whoever decided to design this like this should be unfortunately shot. They're probably dead now, so it doesn't really matter, but it would be nice if somebody would shoot them in heaven. There is also 2 4-inch cannons on the vehicle as well, which are supposedly the AA guns, but since this is a First World War vehicle, it is not one which really has any AA armament on it at all. The vehicle, the specific variant, is from 1928, so before the aircraft became a huge issue for a lot of these larger ships. The Second World War really showed the balance of power change from naval power to aviation power, but before then wasn't so much, especially for things like the HMS Iron Duke. So this one is definitely more of what we would class as a first-spawn vehicle instead of a second or third, because if people decide to bring in airplanes, there's not really a lot this vehicle will be able to do against any of these things. So yeah, kind of sucks at the end of the day that it doesn't have any, but that if it did, then it would probably be put at 7.0, even though it would have exactly the same main armament. Since it's a battleship, it does have quite a lot of armor on it. The main belt of armor just under the sea line is 304 millimeters. That goes along the vast majority of the ship. Above that, you have 226 millimeters in a belt, and then 203 millimeters slightly above it. You also have a little bit of armor on the front and also on the back over here, and then of course you have the coal bunkers in the center, which can eat shots all day. It'll be interesting to see how a machine like this does with the unrepairable breach mechanic they added in last update, obviously decreasing its survivability, but after playing a decent amount of cruisers more recently, they're still not really dying too quickly, so I feel like this one probably won't have too much of an issue either. The bridge has 279 millimeters of armor on it, and the turrets themselves have also 279 millimeters of armor on them too, so trying to keep them alive, and the ammo elevators have 254 millimeters of rolled cemented armor around them to try and keep those going quickly. X-ray shows some quite interesting setups. In the center, you have all of the coal bunkers around the engines, which are just by themselves here, and then also you have the huge transmissions, which are just sat behind. Then you have the ammo racks for the major guns, so if you are trying to make this vehicle pop, it's going to be quite hard to hit these shell rooms since they're pretty low in the water, but I think generally you'll be able to hit it. One of the things that I didn't mention for the vehicle is it does have access to torpedoes. It has those 5.33mm Mark IVs, which don't have a great travel distance and also are just linked to stationary torpedo tubes, which are down in the bottom of the vehicle. So I wouldn't really say that they're going to be that useful. Usually the engagement ranges for stuff like this is probably going to be a little bit, a little bit further than the 7.5, so it's probably not going to be too useful. But they do exist, so, might as well mention them. The other things to also look at the X-ray is the guns themselves. These 13.5 inches will be able to do a decent amount of damage, but you can only do it every 30 seconds. The fire rate is 2 rounds per minute. It isn't affected by a first stage because there isn't one. So yeah, you basically fire every 30 seconds at the target of your choice. At least with that 30-second fire rate, you will do it at 100% accuracy, thanks to the fire director on this machine. So that will at least help out against what is coming in. Usually when it comes to these large battleships, one of the things that makes it pretty, dull for a lot of people is the fire rate on the main guns. You are pretty much just sat around the place, not really doing too much a lot of the time, and waiting to, launch another volley at the enemy. And with a lot of vehicles, they actually have some secondary armaments which you can switch to or which you can control at the same time as the primaries and kind of have a bit of fun with those. The problem with the Iron Duke is it only has these 6 inches and only 6 of them per side. So it's probably not going to be as interesting as you may think. Modification-wise, the main modifications are, of course, around survivability and also the 13.5-inch guns. Remember, since this is a premium, you do get all of these modifications for free, which is quite nice. You start off with a HE for the 13.5s, and it has 88 kilos worth of TNT equivalent, which is just nuts. But of course, the penetration isn't that great. You get 2 sets of APC-BC shells. You have the Mark 1A, which has 22 kilos of TNT equivalent with 500mm of pen. You then have the SAPCB, the SAPCBC round, which has 53 kilos of explosive mass and up to 300mm of penetration, and then the Mark 3A, which has 14 kilos of TNT equivalent, but also has nearly 600mm of penetration. So one thing that's really nice about these guns, depending on whatever situation you're in, and depending on whatever you're fighting, you have a round for each of them. You've just got to make sure to pick them well, because you're going to be sat there for 30 minutes loading other rounds, which will come around the place. The 152s, or the 6-inch guns, also have access to HE, and then also SAP, so they get a little bit of pen too, to be a bit more useful. So yeah, the vehicle itself has some cool factors, but it is hampered by the reload, but I suppose welcome to these types of machines. You can see it has a bunch of different camos that you can unlock as well. The default one, which you get, this blue, grey and black one, feels very futuristic for this type of vehicle, but also at the same time, these kind of like Dazzler camos were used on a lot of vehicles around that time, so it's not really too surprising. Kind of reminds me of the fact that they added the Soviet vehicle with the really cool camo to make it look like it was at least a little bit, more disguised. But the guns themselves, they're pretty slow to move around. You're getting a very standard, like, battleship experience with this thing. If you are not interested in grinding out, the Blue Water Tech Tree for the British, even though it has quite a lot of fun destroyers and quite a lot of fun cruisers too, then you can just, I suppose, buy into top tier with this thing and be able to just start smashing people with the large guns. That's pretty much the whole point of a vehicle like this. It is to get people more interested into the higher echelons, so therefore, they can have a bit of fun with it without having to grind through it. And since a lot of people have talked about the fact that they are interested in playing naval, but maybe not as interested in grinding through, that is why vehicles like this get offered, whether people like it or not. If the market wasn't there, then generally these things wouldn't exist, which is, interesting to at least think about. The guns do make quite a nice noise though. And the visual effects are pretty beautiful as well. The thing is you're going to be waiting here a long time to be able to wait for the next set of rounds, and if you don't do enough damage with the salvo, you're going to get hit pretty hard by stuff like cruisers and also other battle cruisers with a bit faster fire rate. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.